Hi, and welcome to another session of Story Time with Miss Jennifer. I am dedicating this story to my 3s and my 4s at my job because originally I was supposed to come read to them today, but due to the fact that I'm now acting as the co-teacher in the toddler room, I could not do that. So instead, I am sharing one of these lovely Scooby Doo storybook collection stories with you, as I am dressed as Velma from Scooby Doo. So, the story I am sharing is Scooby Doo and the Witch's Ghost. Scooby Doo and his friends were in a museum disguised as exhibits. They were trying to solve a mystery about warrior mummies. Suddenly, the friends spied the mummies. They were about to uncover the culprits behind the mystery when someone else did it for them. The mysterious hero? Ben Ravencroft, Velma cried. The horror writer. The famous writer knew the Mystery Inc. gang too. Ben told them that he had happened to be at the museum doing research for a book. I've always admired your mystery-solving work, he said to Scooby and his friends. Then he added, I'm going to my hometown of Oakhaven this weekend. It's so peaceful. Why don't you come? Hooray, said Scooby. But Oakhaven wasn't peaceful at all. Traffic snarled the streets and tourists scurried to buy T-shirts at Mr. McKnight's drugstore. Ben read from a shirt. I met the ghost of Oakhaven. What was that about? Ghost? Said Shaggy. Roast? Echoed Scooby. Was there really a ghost in Oakhaven? Just then, Mayor Corey hurried over. That's not just any ghost, he explained to the gang. That's the ghost of Sarah Ravencroft. She's one of Ben's ancestors. We must have disturbed her spirit when we built our Puritan village. The townspeople had built a model village for tourists to visit, one that looked centuries old, with houses, shops, and people dressed in Puritan costumes. Mayor Corey proudly showed everyone the sights, including old-fashioned prison stocks. Shaggy got into the spirit right away. Pretending to be locked up, he cried, Look, Scoob, I've been caught! Scooby grinned, then took a turn with an old butter churn. Only he didn't stir it to turn milk into butter. He played it like a guitar. Suddenly, he dropped the churn. Roll it! cried Scooby, chasing a gopher down a hole. A moment later, he popped back up. He had lost the gopher, but found a small rusty buckle. Too bad Scooby didn't find Sarah Ravencroft's journal, Ben told the gang. She was accused of being a witch. That book would clear our family name. The gang looked around the village. They walked past a turkey pen and pumpkin patch. Then Shaggy and Scooby strolled over to Oakhaven Restaurant for lunch. The owner, Jack, read them all the items on the menu. Shaggy's mouth watered. Sounds great, he said. Like, give us 2 of everything. Meanwhile, at Ben Ravencroft's mansion, Daphne, Fred, and Velma stared wide-eyed at the horror writer's gruesome knickknacks and pictures. Fred wandered over to a portrait, a young Puritan woman grasping a journal, standing by a tall oak tree. He read the nameplate, Sarah Ravencroft. Velma stepped closer. So this was the ancestor whose ghost was now haunting the town. Ben saw Velma staring at the picture. Sarah was a Wiccan, Ben explained. A kind of medicine woman, like a doctor. I've read about them, Velma said. Wiccans don't use ordinary medicine. They understand the forces of nature, herbs and plants, and use them for healing. Sarah treated her patients under a large oak tree, Ben went on. I've searched for that tree around the town, hoping to find Sarah's journal, which may have been buried there, but I haven't come up with a thing. A few minutes later, everyone went to meet Shaggy and Scooby. At the Oak Haven restaurant, shocked customers were watching the friends chow down. It was like nothing they had ever seen. Scooby chomped a giant ham bone. Shaggy stuffed handfuls of fries in his mouth. Is there anything left in the kitchen? Velma joked, eyeing the plates piled high with bones and leftovers. Let's go and see if that ghost makes an appearance tonight, Fred said to Shaggy and Scooby. The two friends stared, frightened at each other. Like we'd love to, Shaggy told his friends. But we haven't had our dessert yet. So Ben took Velma, Daphne, and Fred around town trying to spot the ghost, while Shaggy and Scooby gobbled down 12 pies. Finally, they staggered out of the restaurant. It was nighttime now, and the dark street was empty. Thud, thud. Suddenly, loud, heavy footsteps sounded. Shaggy and Scooby stopped short. Who was coming? 3 shadowy shapes glided over to them. Girls! Shaggy exclaimed, slicking back his hair. Hi! The girls paused under a street light. They wore black, somber clothes. Their faces were deathly pale, and their hair was long and straggly. Hi! The girls replied with wicked grins. Each one had sharp, jagged teeth. I thought there was only one ghost witch, Shaggy panted as he and Scooby raced away. All at once, a powerful wind whipped down the street. Leaves swirled and trees shook with the force. The witch's ghost appeared. She shook just like Shaggy imagined. She looked just like Shaggy imagined, with a pointy hat and cackling voice. This town ruined me, shrieked the ghost, and now it will pay. She raised one arm. A red-hot fireball shot from her fingertips. Scooby and Shaggy took off. The witch's ghost tossed another fireball, and Shaggy leapt into the air. He held on to Scooby as they ran around the corner, careening straight into Velma, Daphne, Fred, and Ben Ravencroft. Richard Rose, cried Scooby. Witch's ghost, Velma repeated. You saw her? Where? Shaggy led everyone back to the spot, babbling about fireballs and 3 other witches. Velma switched on a flashlight. She said, kneeling to examine some powder. Fireballs. Ah! A wailing sound echoed through the town, and strange green lights flickered in the distance. The gang and Ben tracked the sound and lights to a large clearing in the woods. A stage stood at one end with 3 figures swaying under a strange green light show. The noise was music. Zoink, said Shaggy. It's those other witches. It's just a band, Fred said. He pointed to a sign that said Hex Girls behind the girls. I heard they're putting on a concert tomorrow night. They must be rehearsing. No longer scared, Shaggy and Scooby danced to the music. The song ended, and the girls introduced themselves as Thorn, Luna, and Dusk. Fred whispered to Velma, These girls seem suspicious. Daphne and I will keep an eye on them. Velma wanted to do more exploring, so she led the others to the witch's ghost spot. Tire tracks, she exclaimed, shining her flashlight on some marks in the dirt. Let's see where they lead. Everyone followed the tracks to a large barn. Shh, said Velma, pulling everyone into the shadows as a man hurried out. It was the mayor. Jinkies, said Velma, surprised. The barn doors were now padlocked shut, so Ben hoisted her up to a window and she climbed inside. A truck stood in the center of the barn. Its engine was still warm. Why would somebody drive a construction truck at night? Velma wondered. Meanwhile, Shaggy and Scooby followed the mayor. They tried to be quiet, but Mayor Corey stopped and whirled around. The street was empty, so he shrugged and walked on. He didn't notice the guys hiding inside a mailbox. a broken mailbox. A few minutes later, Shaggy and Scooby watched the mayor take a package from a shopkeeper. Then they trailed him to a hotel where he delivered the package to the owner. Zoinks, Shaggy whispered. This mayor is one busy guy. Yeah, Scooby agreed. Shaggy and Scooby continued to follow the mayor around town, but they lost sight of him near an old warehouse. Ah! A loud moan echoed down from the roof, and suddenly the witch's ghost appeared. She swooped toward the guys, reaching out for them with clawed hands. Scooby and Shaggy tried to run. They spun their legs wildly, but that only made them dig a hole in the dirt. They couldn't get out. This town will pay, the witch's ghost moaned again. Send them the bill, Shaggy yelled back as they finally scrambled free. But leave us alone. The guys raced right past their friends and squeezed into another mailbox, quivering with fear. So what happened? Velma asked the shaking mailbox. Shaggy explained everything. Then Fred described a strange ceremony the hex girl named Thorn had performed. She had crushed plants and flowers to make some sort of potion. Velma thought a moment. A phone call would have to be made, and then I can solve the mystery, she declared, and we can leave. Leave? Shaggy, then Scooby popped free of the mailbox and hugged Velma with joy. But I need one more clue. Back at the concert stage, Velma whispered her plan to the gang. Fred and Daphne nodded, then scurried into the woods. But Shaggy and Scooby were more interested in putting on a show. Hey, Thorn hissed, suddenly appearing behind the pals. She bared her fangs menacingly. Scooby gulped. Sorry. Thanks for coming, Velma said, hurrying to greet the spooky musicians. But why'd you call us? Thorn asked. What are we doing here? All at once, a blast of wind hit the stage. The witch's ghost was back. Run! Shaggy cried, his hair standing on end. The ghost hurled a fireball. Everyone scrambled off the stage, with the witch's ghost close behind. It was going just the way Velma had planned. Now to catch the ghost. Suddenly, Velma flung herself to the ground, pretending to trip. The ghost screeched to a stop. Now! Velma shouted into the woods. A tree branch sprang forward, snapping a wire in two. The ghost flew backward, out of control, straight into a net hanging between two bushes. Velma had set a trap. Daphne and Fred came out from behind the bushes. Fred looked at the ghost, who was trapped and moaning in the net. Let's see who this is, he said. He pulled off the witch's mask. Everyone gasped. Like it's the t-shirt guy, Shaggy exclaimed. Mr. McKnight. He was the man who ran the drugstore, and, as it turned out, he was also Thorn's father. Daddy, said Thorn. I can explain what happened, Velma said. Mr. McKnight got the fireball powder from Thorn's stage props. Then she pointed to the truck. It was the same one she had seen in the barn. Now it was parked in the woods next to a giant fan. The truck has a wire device that made the ghost fly. The fan created the wind, so it took more than one person to pull off this scam. Jack, the restaurant owner, stepped out of the darkness, followed by the hotel owner, the shopkeeper, and finally the mayor. They hung their heads ashamed. These people made money from the tourists who came to see the ghost, Velma said. And we're not witches, one hex girl told them, taking out her fake fangs. We just pretend for our act. But Thorn really is a Wiccan. She even makes herbal drinks to soothe our throats for singing. So that was the potion. We found Sarah's gravestone when we built our Puritan village, the mayor went on. We remembered how she had been accused of witchcraft, So we used her as our ghost, but we didn't find that journal. Velma thought back to the portrait in Ben's home. Sarah stood in front of an old oak tree, holding a book that had a buckle. The buckle was just like the one Scooby had found when he chased the gopher down a hole, right by the stump of an oak tree. And where there's a buckle, Velma told herself, maybe there's a book. Ben grabbed. Immediately, she dangled 2 Scooby snacks in front of Scooby and told him to find the hole. He raced to the spot and dug up a strange-looking book. Ben grabbed it. He grinned, but it was an evil grin that darkened his face. "This isn't a journal," he growled in a low, threatening voice. "It's a spell book. Sarah was a witch." Velma gasped. He had known it all along. "And I set up the museum meeting," he told the gang, "so you could help me find it." Ben had tricked them all, the gang from Mystery Inc., the mayor and his friends, the Hex girls, and now his evil plans were about to unfold. "I will summon Sarah," Ben cried. "Together we will rule the world." The book glowed red. The wind whipped fiercely, pushing everyone back. The townspeople flew into the stocks of the Puritan village, and the Hex girls were tied to a post. Thunder boomed, lightning flashed. Clouds shifted, and suddenly the witch's ghost, the real witch's ghost, swept through the sky. "Serve me," Ben commanded, but the witch's ghost had other ideas. "I serve no one," she glared at Ben, holding out her arm. A fire blast shot out and caught Ben up in a green glowing ball. The spell book dropped to the ground. "We need that book," Velma whispered to Shaggy and Scooby. "Get close to that evil bad guy, Ben," Shaggy groaned. But he and Scooby dashed away while the witch flung fireball after fireball at the others. "The Wiccans imprisoned me in the book," Sarah shrieked. "And no one will do that again." One blast zapped the pumpkin patch. Boom! The pumpkins exploded and changed into monster creatures, skittering on vine legs. "Jinkies!" cried Velma as she sped quickly away. For a second, the coast was clear, so Shaggy grabbed the book. But the witch's ghost sent one more fireball. It crashed into the turkey pen. "Get them birds," she ordered. "Even we are not scared of that," Shaggy said. Only suddenly the turkey grew into a huge, monstrous creature. "Like, now we are," said Shaggy. He and Scooby raced into a museum building and rushed out in Puritan costumes. Shaggy held a giant turkey baster while Scooby held a bowl of stuffing. "Uh-oh," squawked the turkey, turning tail to run. Thou will not escape," the witch's ghost cackled. She gripped Scooby by the tail, holding him upside down. "Zoinks!" cried Shaggy, jumping out of his costume. He flung a bucket of water at the witch's ghost, just like Dorothy had done in The Wizard of Oz. "Hey," he said, surprised, "like you're not melting." He tossed the bucket and it landed on the witch's head. She dropped Scooby. "Raggy, run!" cried Scooby as the bucket popped free. Shaggy grabbed the witch's spell book and threw it to Velma. She flipped through the pages, searching for the spell to imprison Sarah. "Here," she said to Thorn, "you're a Wiccan. Read it." The witch was getting closer. Quickly, Thorn read, "Ancient evil, get thee hence." Suddenly, the book jumped out of Thorn's hands, glowing and crackling with energy. The wind died away, and Sarah's ghost was sucked into the pages. "I won't go back alone," she cried, grabbing Ben's foot. Whoosh! They disappeared into the spell book together. That night, the Hex Girls, along with Shaggy and Scooby, performed their concert to a sold-out crowd. The giant turkey never returned to its regular size, and the tourists were still flocking to Oakhaven to see it. The mayor and the townspeople grinned happily. "Scooby-Dooby-Doo!" Scooby hissed and grinning back, showing off his brand new fangs. Well, guys, I hope y'all enjoyed that. and hope you guys have a safe, happy, and fabulous Halloween. See ya.